Okay. Good evening, Germantown community. I'm Benjamin Bragg, Superintendent of Schools here at Germantown Central School District. This evening, Stephen Golas, my interim business manager, and I will be sharing the 2021-2022 proposed budget in this public forum. This public forum is being recorded. If you have any questions, you can always hit the question or the chat box to provide us any questions, and we will answer after the completion of our presentation. I'm going to start the presentation at this moment. So here we go. First, we're looking at the calendar. We started this process back in November 2020. As you can look at this, December in 2020, the Board of Education adopted their budget calendar. A preliminary budget forecast and budget assumptions to the Board of Education was provided on February 10th, 2021. And as we moved through, we had the Board of Education meeting to finalize the 2021-2022 education plan and budget on April 21st. And we submitted the petitions to the Board of Education and candidates on the 19th of April. The final date for budget adoption of the Board of Education and voting for the Columbia County Board of Elections was April 23rd. April 26th, we provided a property tax report card to the State Ed Department. And April 28th, we had a special board meeting to amend the tax levy. And then between April and May 18th, the budgets are available at the school and the public free libraries in the district. And here we are, May 5th, the budget hearing. And between tonight and the 12th of May, residents will be receiving the budget notices in the mail. And May 18th is our annual meeting, board election night from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Germantown Central School District is a comprehensive rural public school district that provides opportunity, resources, environment, and instruction so that all students may be productive, successful, independent, responsible, and contributing members of our global society. Our mission here at Germantown is to improve student achievement, graduate all students, and promote student social and emotional wellness. Our focus areas this year is academic intervention services or response to intervention, especially in the time period that we had this past year. Instructional technology to continue providing our students the availability to do things with their computers. Data-driven instruction to really close the gaps with our students. And the reallocation of staff and programs that was cut from COVID-19. I'm going to turn it over to Steve. Steve, if you can go over the tax levy for the community, that'd be great.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Glad you are all here for the budget presentation. As you're well aware, everyone across New York State, all school districts are subject to a tax cap. And essentially the calculation limits how much the tax levy can be increased in any particular upcoming school year. And there are a number of factors that go into it. One of the things is growth in actual real property or construction in the school district. You see that on this page in the tax-based growth factor at 1.0015. And then there are, when you look at the tax levy, you have to take out prior year exemptions. Those exemptions are things like capital costs. So basically things like small capital building projects, payments on bonds, capital costs that we have to pay to BOCES for their small amount for their capital projects and at BOCES, and then offsetting with state aid, BOCES aid, and building aid. And we get to say what that comes, it's an exclusion from the tax levy. And what we excluded last year from calculating our tax levy limit, it actually has to be taken out here because we have the total tax levy from last year at the top, adjusted by the allowable growth factor for real property growth. And then we get a number 9,666,000. Take out what was the exemptions from last year that were in that tax levy, capital related, gets us down to a little bit less than 9.1 million. And then there's an allowable growth factor based on CPI. that gets us back up to 9,000,000, almost 176,000 for the tax levy. And then we get to also add to it, what are those capital costs for the upcoming school year? That again would be a small capital project that we do that we can get aided on the next school year of $100,000, plus our estimated debt service on our new capital project. You see our new auditorium and additions to the school. The debt service is kicked in on that, and then offset by things like building aid, plus some minor capital expenses and offsetting BOCES aid from BOCES. And so what happened is our capital costs have actually gone down that we can add to the tax levy, which leads to a relatively small increase in the tax levy amount of 0.82%, less than 1%. The reason our exemptions are smaller is aid has kicked in. We're getting more state aid on those capital costs related to that new construction. So it, in that sense, by having a smaller capital amount to add back, it hurts us while we can increase our taxes. So to have a budget vote where we wouldn't have to get a super majority of the voters, that's the maximum tax levy allowed, less than 1% for 21-22.
Thank you, Steve. So we've broken it down, and this is your state aid revenue. We compared last year to this year, and you can see the adjustments. The foundation aid is increased $118,769 from the state. Building aid is increased $191,548. And the other increases, the transportation of $15,584, and other state and software of about $10,396. We're still receiving $380,000 for the UPK, which is Universal Pre-K. So we will be able to continue that program. When we add all of that up, excluding the pre-K, it's 5.1 million. And when we add the pre-K in, we're about $5.5 million in state aid revenue.
Yeah, so the overall growth was small on state aid because we also had something we had to count as a state aid decrease. What we get for students with disabilities in the past, Germantown had a number of students who were at private out-of-district special ed placements, and most of those students have either left or aged out. And our students are now in public special education placements that are primarily at BOCES sites within the coverage area of Quest R3 BOCES. We get a lot less aid on that. So while we did get some increases in state aid, we ended up losing from what was projected for us about $220,000 roughly of excess cost aid for students with disabilities. Unfortunately, you get much less generous aid when you send students to a public placement at BOCES instead of to an out-of-district placement. And so it basically, the local contribution is larger and the amount of expenses left to be aided are done at a smaller aid ratio. So while we got some gains, the projections that the state put together showed as if we still had those students in private special ed placement, and we don't. So that adjusted our state aid. So we didn't get a lot of growth, in state aid revenues, and and not a lot of difference. Also, we were pretty conservative on local revenues, what they may be coming at. So what that leads to is our tax levy, the total we're allowed to off, in addition to the other revenues we've just covered, is $9,731,282. That's our 0.82% increase in the tax levy from the prior year.
As you can see, we broke it down so it's easier for people to see. State aid is about 32%. Local cost is going to be 60% of our revenue, and other revenue is 1%. The fund balance that we're going to utilize is 6%, and reserves 1%. So we broke it down so it's a visual for you. So now we broke some more information here. This is where we broke down our expenditures, and we broke it down by different sections of the budget. First, we have the Board of Education. As you can see, I can point it out that we're staying the same as the last year's budget. It's actually gone down in the last 2 years. Central administration, it's decreased continuously, and this is the lowest it's been. The finance and business administration is also decreased from last year. And legal and BOCES has increased just minimally One of the reasons is that we are going into negotiations with all 3 units. In addition to that, the operation of the plant and maintenance of plant, you can see an increase here. The purpose of that increase is multifolded. We have the new addition that we're going to have to put oil and heat and cool. We have the electricity in the new addition. We also have to have it cleaned. So in there has a 1.0 custodian. We also have a one-time allocation for a new pickup truck because one of our pickup trucks is falling apart. We also need a new mower because that's falling apart, a misting unit so that we can continue to sanitize properly for COVID, and 2 floor machines because it's necessary. So those are one-time deals. That budget will decrease again next year, but we got to keep in mind that we do have 14,000 square feet of new building space that we have to manage with oil, heating and cooling and electricity. The security is our SRD that's here, protecting us in safety. That is a very minor increase. Central data processing is a decrease from last year. And then special items is also a decrease from last year. Supervision, regular school, very minimal increase, about $2,000. Research, planning, and evaluation and service training all combined is a decrease of about $11,000. Teaching regular school, including summer programs, increased about $100,000. And that's, more teachers that we added back into the system that were cut off last year. And I'm going to go into that at the end. Program students with disabilities. This is what Mr. Golas was talking about. It will increase the cost to $2.4 million with more students needing higher needs and the cost of getting them those needs. And then occupational educational services is a very little increase to $278,500. School library and audiovisual, a little decrease there. Instructional technology. Now, talk about instructional technology, you'd be like, why is it decreasing? Well, we're utilizing a grant that's been provided to us to provide students with a bunch of Chromebooks and iPads and accessories necessary to keep our technology up and running particularly very well. So I just want to make sure when you look at this, you're not saying, well, why a decrease in technology when technology is being used so much? We actually utilize grant money to accommodate that situation. Guidance regular school is a big decrease for the school district. Health services and regular schools, another decrease for the district. Social work and regular schools, minor increase, and co-curricular interscholastic sports. Co-curricular is a minor increase, and interscholastic ended up being a decrease. District transportation services is an increase, but we did see an increase from the state aid to support that increase. So that's a good benefit. The next couple things here is really comes down to contractual and also people and state retirement, teachers retirement, social security, workers comp, unemployment insurance, hospital, medical and dental insurance, and retirement sick pay. All those obviously have increased over the year, which is really out of our control at this point. Debt service has increased minor, and transfer of other funds. We're using that money for a water tank for this year and next year for some roofing that we need to get fixed here in the district. Steve, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think you missed anything. I think the only thing I would say is, what we're doing in this budget, we're trying to certainly make some key investments. And one of them would be, there were some positions that we had cut in the district during this COVID year. And there were a number of FTE things that, like, there were art and music and a speech that were cut down to part-time, they're back to full-time. I think we had we're refilling a Spanish teacher for next year to offer more foreign language offerings. We're also a science teacher that's hired, that we had a vacancy. And we also found that we did need to add a special class in special education. Yvonne Waters, our special ed administrator. We have students coming in kindergarten that are going to need, that on the autism spectrum, they're going to need additional help and services. We're doing a class for them, for younger grades, with the hope of after next year and at some point doing more push-in services and transferring those students to save some money in the future into be included and get services in our general education classroom. And we also fully funded all of the out of district placements in special ed and any other services students need. So it was in making investments and all. The other thing we did add, because kindergarten enrollment is growing, we added a teacher assistant to kindergarten because we're going to have a large kindergarten class, which is good. That's a good thing. Lots of kids coming to school. So the idea was try to, make key investments and make sure we're back where we were pre-COVID.
Right. And also in addition to that, we're bringing back a physical education teacher full-time.
All right. Yes.
As well. So all of our programs would be back in place, including programs that are BOCES run, the Tech Valley, and also the BOCES programs, and the what's the other one? I forget the other one, but there's programs that we're going to be able to run. And we're looking at with transportation to coordinate with Hudson City School District to cut the cost of transportation down and share buses for those kind of programs. It just makes sense. And we will be getting more information on that as soon as we get through the budget process.
Yeah, that's important because without that, transportation would be forever increasing. So we're looking at ways to save, because especially there are students, if they go out of district placements, that gets quite expensive.
So we broke it down even easier, a little easier to understand. So general support is the Board of Education, District Central Administration, Business Office, Finance, Legal Services, and BOCES support. It comes to $571,158. Operations of the plant, maintenance of the plant, insurance, BOCES support comes to $1.5 million. The regular teaching in school, which would be the principals, teachers, support personnel, professional development, special programs for students outside of our district, textbooks, supplies, equipment, and BOCES support comes to about $4.2 million. And then we got the program staff for students with disabilities, BOCES occupational education programs, regular education summer programs, school library, instructional technology, guidance services, health services, co-curricular, interscholastic, and athletic programs at about just under 3.4 million. And then transportation services for all students who reside in the district plus fuel is about $958,750. And then a retirement, medical insurance, Social Security, workers' comp, unemployment insurance, principal and interest on bonds, district share support, and special education summer program comes to about 5.6 million. Totaling of the total cost to run our district next year is $16,331,182. I broke it down into a pie chart so that it's easier for people to see. The general support equals 3%. The operations is 9% of our budget. Teach and regular school is 26% of our budget. Special education, library, health, and extracurricular is 21% of our budget. Transportation is 6% of our budget. And the benefits, debt service, and special education for summer programs is 35% of the budget. So you can see the biggest chunks, 26, 21, and 35. All those are basically people and programs for your children. So the spending plan as presented is the product of an extensive examination that Mr. Golas and I have done over the previous years, revenue reductions due to COVID-19 emergency, and anticipated needs for our students in 2021, 2022. Again, this spending plan is within the tax levy limit of 0.82%. The recommended expenses is $331,182. Our anticipated revenues, which we went through already, is $15,086,154. We're going to appropriate reserves of $150,000. We're going to appropriate the fund balance of $1,095,028. And then these two next areas, we're projecting a fund balance from the current school year to be replaced into our fund balance due to the fact that it was a COVID year and we didn't get a chance to run all of our programs. So we actually have approximately $1.1 million going to replenish the fund balance. So it almost acts as a zero to use of the fund balance. And then the federal special aid that we are expected to receive is about $1 million. And what we're planning to do with that is learning loss, working with intervention programs, and social emotional supports. So that's basically in a nutshell where we're at to keep it within the 0.82% tax. Again, our goal is to reallocate staffing positions, which was mentioned, that was decimated in the pandemic, while providing our district ample electives for student success while closing these achievement gaps that have been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, the recommended expenses is $16,331,182. Anticipated revenues is $15,086,154. The use of our fund balance of $1,095,028 and appropriated reserve use of $150,000. And again, we're projecting fund balance return of 1.1 million and federal special aid for special programs and for 3 to 4 years out on those programs for interventions and also social mental supports of about $1,001,938. And again, we are within the tax cap. The budget vote, the date for the budget vote is May 18th, 2021. The time of the vote is between 12 p.m. and 9 p.m. Now, the location is different than usual. We're moving the location due to the pandemic, not being able to have people from the outside come into our building while we have students and staff here. We just don't want to have any possibility of having somebody sick come into the building. And we want to make sure that we keep our students and our staff safe. So we are going to have our location changed to Kellner Community Activity Center, 50 Palatine Park Road in Germantown, New York, 12526. You will be receiving the budget information sent to you in the mail this next week. And then we will be looking forward to your vote on May 18th. Steve, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much it. One of the things I think one of the challenges we're going to have is you notice that there was that additional little bit more federal aid. That's what was just passed, by Congress through the Biden administration. And it includes some aid that would come as a result of stimulus that was passed in Washington in December. That $1 million we will have to use over a 3 or 4 year period, at least 3. And I think the state is going to request to the federal government that New York State be able to use all this significant aid that came in over 4 years. So the key will be, spreading that out and using that effectively over the next few years. And that'll be one of the things that, will help. And I think a piece of it would be used in the upcoming school year to close the gap, like learning loss and things like that, and social and emotional needs of students, which those things are not in this budget, but some of those things would come out of that new federal money, which it's accounted for somewhere else. It's called the Special Aid Fund. But that's going to be part of the planning over the next few years.
Okay, I didn't see any questions. Is there any questions that we need to answer from anybody? If you do have any questions, please contact us at the school. It's 518-537-6281. You can either ask for myself or Mr. Golas, and we will get your answers to you immediately. And again, all the budget information is at the local library and the district offices, and you will be provided a pamphlet with all the information specific to the budget in the next week.
Yes, and then also to let everyone know, the required budget materials, budget statement, revenue statement, and other attachments, including tax report card and other things, they're also on the district website.
Yes.
All of that was scanned and put up there for easy access by the public. And the budget book is also in the district office and the library.
All right. So this concludes our public hearing. I thank you, Mr. Golas, for joining us, and the community members. If you have any questions, again, please contact us directly. And I'm going to close this meeting at this point. Thank you, Mr. Golas. I appreciate your support.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your confidence and your support as well.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay.